Hey everyone. You know, over the past weekend, True MegaBeatMan's Reviews, did a review of Sonic the Hedgehog issue 173 when it was under the Archie Comics license. Now before I get into that, I do want to talk about the solicits for IDW Sonic the Hedgehog issue 5, which comes out in May. Now I know you're thinking, well, where's the rest of the issues if that's number 5? Here's the thing. IDW is going to be releasing in the next few months on a weekly basis Sonic the Hedgehog issues 1 to 4. And by releasing these issues, essentially that's why we're getting number 5 in May. Now number 5 is called The Fate of Dr. Eggman. Finally we see Eggman in the IDW Sonic comics, and we're going to find out what's been going on with him. Because apparently the first 4 issues, and I think the 5th one, take place after Sonic Forces in a continuity standpoint. Unofficial continuity. So yeah, we're going to finally find out what's been going on with Eggman ever since the end of Sonic Forces. So that's pretty cool. What's cooler though, however, is the fact that the cover you see here is very reminiscing of a panel scene. And I don't think MegaBeatMan brought this up. I don't think Matt brought this up. This is reminiscing. This is pretty much taken out of Sonic issue 200 under the Archie license. This panel is exactly almost identical in a sense. So that's pretty neat. At least it shows that maybe we're going to get some Archie related content of some kind in the IDW verse down the line. Because like I said, that's pretty much straight on a recopy or re-imagery of a panel out of 200. Out of Sonic 200, that is. But with that said, let's talk about 173, and this is kind of a response to Matt's review, but it's kind of my own take on it too, because 173 set the tables in turn. Yeah, I think that's how you say it, how you could say it. Well, kind of set the table, set the events in motion for the upcoming issues or so. You see, this issue here, it's kind of like I said, set events in motion, but was really a turning point for a lot of the characters under Ian's writing. You see, despite the differences me and Ian Flynn might have, this set in motion things to come. You see, this was the issue that Ian Flynn was probably looking forward to, well, at least was one of the issues that Ian Flynn was looking forward to working on. You see, Ian Flynn, when he came on board, made his intentions clear that he wanted to, first and foremost, clean up any loose ends and messes left behind by Carl Bowlers, Ken Penders, and whoever else. And that's exactly what he did throughout his run. True, with no offense, God knows I don't mean any offense by this, Ian did start to fall into a similar pattern of always either being repetitive or writing characters out of characters when not necessary. So yes, Ian did fall somewhat at times into that same category, into that same area that Ken Penders and Carl Bowlers fell into. Basically, he was becoming repetitive with certain story arcs, and he was starting to write characters at times out of character. But you can't blame Ian for doing that at times, because even up until the end, he was trying to change things up. He was trying to make sure things were more clearer, things were more smoothed out, you name it. And you can't blame Ian Flynn for that. I mean, pretty much when he took over, it's like Archie Comics basically said, okay Ian, here you go, here's the comic, it's in your hands now, and here's the mess that comes along with it. here's the baggage that comes along with it. And Ian Flynn pretty much realized, well, probably, in a sense, I think Ian Flynn probably thought to himself the quote that Lauren Hardy would always use, or Laura would use with Hardy all the time, and that is, well, this is another fine mess you got us into, or something like that. Basically, it's the line that Lauren Hardy would use. Lauren, when they would get into a situation, Lauren would use the saying to Hardy of, well, this is another fine mess you got us into. And Hardy's reaction would be like, oh, you didn't mean it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Excuse me. Sorry for that interruption, I got a phone call there. Anyway, but basically that's kind of what it is, you know, Ian Flynn's like Lauren Hardy, and he's like looking at Archie comics, and he's looking at the previous writers. He's like, well, this is a fine mess you got us into, so something like that. But again, I'm not saying that he was never acceptable or unacceptable to what happened later on, because he was, he too would end up, like I said, falling down a similar path at times, because he would take on other jobs. And I think when you take on other jobs, you kind of start to lose focus of your primary job, or at least one of your primary jobs. But anyway, getting to 173, you could kind of tell that, like I said, this is one of his most anticipated ones he was looking forward to, because character-wise, when it came to Sally, this was a moment he'd been wanting to write for. This was a moment he's been wanting to write for, and this kind of started that connection, that redemption for her. Because in this issue, Sally, almost simultaneously at the same time, Sonic's talking to Antoine, because they were split into two groups, Sally with Bunny, Sonic with Antoine. Sally, with tears flowing down her eyes as her and Bunny are keeping watch, basically regrets the actions she's had. Regrets acting the way she did. Regrets the slap that she gave Sonic, because she was just going through so much. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, you have Antoine in character development for himself, explaining to Sonic, look, you can't blame Sally for the way she acted. She thought for a whole year, like the rest of us, you were dead. She didn't know you survived. So when you got injured that one time against Mecha, it threw her mentally, it broke her in a sense temporarily. And I have to give Ian credit for going and giving the development he needed to those two characters, because basically this is, like I said, this is something I think he wanted to do. I think, being a fan at one time himself, he realized, I would not want, as a fan, I would not want this to go on. I would want to fix it. And that's what he did. And 173, in my opinion, did that. It was a turning point, because it allowed Sally to basically regret what she did. And that basically continued on and on for the next several issues. It culminated in, in 177, when even while they're under attack, she has Bunny basically cut her hair and restore it back to the way it's known for. And the quote she put in that issue was, it's just a way of saying she's back to her old self again. And that's Ian Flynn's way of saying, this is the Sally I know. This is the Sally I became a fan of when I was a fan of the comic. It's the Sally everybody else became a fan of when they became a fan of the comic. So, in a way, Ian used 173 to kind of build to that. I'm not saying that when he started off he wasn't starting to build towards it either, but you can kind of tell he wanted to tie up a lot of loose ends. There were some things to him that just did not make any sense, or why they even were being. And 173 was one of his opportunities to start tying up loose ends and bringing characters back to the way they are, or the way fans know them as, since the start, or since, maybe the issue 30s and 20s and all that. And with him writing Sally the way he did, it was the start of her redemption back to the way she was. Overall, I thought 173 was good. I really did. Yes, it was the issue in which Antoine proposed to Bunny, and that set in motion their marriage. Did the marriage come a little too quick? Absolutely, I will agree on that. It was a little too quick issue-wise. Issue-wise, it was a little too quick, but guess what? You can't blame Ian Flynn for wanting to rush it, especially after what Carl Bowlers and Ken Penders, well, mostly Carl Bowlers, had put those two characters through in the story. You can't really blame them. You can't really blame Ian for wanting to rush it, because he's like, man, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I don't want to chance anything else happening, whether I'm on the book or not. I'm going to get this out of the way. And that's what he did. He wanted to get to the wedding, get it done, and move on. Move forward, if you will. And that's what he did. And I give him credit for that. I really do. But yeah, overall, 173 may not be a milestone issue, but it does take place basically a year into Ian's run. So you could tell he was looking forward to it in a sense, because it helped him retcon, restore things, retcon and restore elements and characters to the way they were previously. So give him a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit on that. I really do. But here's the thing about Ian too. And I'm kind of surprised MegaBeatMan never talked about this, or anybody never talked about this. You see, again, despite my differences with Ian, I will give him all the credit in the world. I will. When he first started around issue 160, I think that was the issue. I could be wrong. He set out to do exactly what he said he was going to do. And whether or not a lot of us agreed with it, we have to admit that what he did really helped the book out. He looked at the fact that we had too many unnecessary characters that were being focused on, and some of those characters needed to go. Tommy Turtle was one of them. He realized that there was a lot of loopholes in situations that needed to be addressed. And in time, he finally addressed them. For example, when Tails got his parents back. Whenever that was, I can't think of it. I can't think of what the issue was. When Tails got his parents back, when we got introduced to Tails' parents, we wondered how this came to be, and we did get an answer, I think even previously or so, or afterwards, whenever it was. No, we got an answer previously in an issue, or so. In Sonic Kids, I think we got an answer. In the Sonic Kids 48-page special, we got an answer. But besides that, we never really got to see them until later on. I think they did an issue where they went to the area where they were at, rescued them, and brought them back. But Ian Flynn, give him credit, he realized there has to be a reason. There has to be more to the parents than just, let's bring them into the equation. There has to be a reason why the parents acted the way they did. I think in Sonic Kids, I think Sonic Kids is what in that Sonic Kids special is where we got the idea that said there was something up. Anyway, Ian realized that there had to be more to the situation, and lo and behold, what did he give us? He gave us House of Cards. And simultaneously, at the time that he finally addressed that situation, is there has to be something there, besides the prowess to showing up, like what is going on, like what is the history. Because I think, like I said, with the Sonic Kids special, I think it was indicated that there was some kind of tension between the royal house and the Prower family or something. I can't really remember. But whatever the case may be, Ian realized, I can't just do an issue with Sonic and Tails fighting. I need to have a reason for all this coming together. I have to have a reason why the parents were brought. Here's the thing. When the parents were introduced, it's like Ian realized there's got to be a reason Carl Bowlers or Ken Penders introduced them. What's the reason? And he realized, you know what? I got to bring them back and have a reason for them being back. And there you go. Pretty much that's what it was. he realized, okay, the parents are, basically he realized when the parents got introduced, he realized that, okay, we can't just introduce them and then leave them there. People are going to want to see them brought back somehow. So he realized, you know what, let's bring them back. And at the same time, let's have a reason for them being back and a reason for them being here. And he gave us one. Simultaneously, he also gave us a conclusion to the whole Sonic Tails situation, because we were always wondering in issues that followed and all that why there was tension. And he used what was known as House of Cards 178 to 179 as a way of finally addressing that, because he basically had Tails in the scuffle of 179 basically admit to Sonic, finally lash out at Sonic, that the reason he was upset with him this whole time is because Sonic was dating Fiona, and Sonic knew Tails was crazy for Fiona and should have had the respect of, oh, you know, this is Tails' girl, even though it's not official, even though that's not really official, I should not touch her, or something like that. So yeah, basically Ian realized, okay, we got to bring the parents back, we got to have a reason for them for being here, and we got to also pretty much wrap up this whole situation with Tails and Sonic over Fiona. There you go. I know that sounded like I was rambling, a little convoluted, but the truth is, but here's the thing, you don't think Ian Flynn was sitting on his desk thinking, man, how do I simplify and clean all this up, thinking the same thing, thinking how convoluted the situation was? Of course he was. But the point is, whether you like Ian Flynn or you don't, whether you've had your problems or you didn't, or whether you feel he's taking on too much as is as a head writer, you got to admit that when he first started with the Sonic the Hedgehog comics, when they were under Archie, he did the best he could. He did what was necessary to clean up the act, clean up the mess that was left behind. And you know what? You got to give him all the credit in the world. That's exactly what he did. So, yeah. Ian Flynn, when he came to 173, that, whether you noticed it or not, is a great example of him basically cleaning up and retconning and fixing the damages and stuff that were made, and cleaning up the mess that was left behind when it came to characters and plot points, and then later on doing the same thing during his run. Even when he went into the soft retcon reboot, he continued to do that. Maybe not as best as he used to, but he continued to do so from that point on. And again, I'm not saying he didn't fall into the same trap that Penders and Burles and everybody else did at some points, but at least let's take a look at it. He may have fell into the same trap, but he didn't stay in it too long. So that's all I'm going to say on my response to MegaBeatMan's Sonic 173 review, as well as kind of talking about how Ian, during his initial time with the book, his first few years, I should say, helped clean up any messes that were left behind. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.